Welcome to the Whiskey Congress. Honest, open talk dedicated to speaking the truth to those who are open to hearing it. Black, white, right, left. Most importantly, honest, bold, and fueled by good whiskey. In Whiskey Veritas, we are Whiskey Congress. Join the evolution.
Whiskey Congress is back in session. Yes, I'm switching up the intro.
Oh.
You know what? I felt bored because our show starts with "Welcome to Whiskey Congress," and then I say "Welcome," but I'm like, "Damn it, no, I'm not being repetitive anymore."
You didn't even tell me you were doing this.
I didn't know.
Wow.
I'm mixing things up.
Good job out of you.
Thank you, brother. We have whiskey to talk about. You brought it. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, so it's the Evan Williams Bottled in Bond. Can't get it in
Which
Ohio.
we've discussed before.
Yes. Can't get it in Ohio. Found it. A friend of mine got it for me in Kentucky, and I'd just say out of the gate, I think it's pretty damn good.
I think it's fantastic. I gave it a 91.
I gave it a 92.
Okay.
And contemplating getting it higher. And, there's...
The only reason I wouldn't get it higher is it doesn't have a wild flavor profile or anything crazy. And last night at your place, I drank some phenomenal whiskeys. We can talk about that later.
Okay.
But,
okay.
91, 92.
Fair enough. I mean,
Really,
especially
really
if you're
strong.
comparing to what we were drinking last night. But, no, this is, I think this is just really good. Now, the thing about this, as good as this whiskey is, you know how much it costs?
You told me, and I remember being amazed because I'm Mr. Fine, Good, Cheap Whiskey guy.
So that bottle, that big bottle.
1.75, yeah.
Yeah.
Big ass bottle.
$20.
No fucking way.
$20.
All right, we are going to organize a war between the militias of Ohio and Kentucky to seize their Evan Williams bottles and bond stash.
How good is it though, right?
Good enough for me to tell the Ohio militia.
Let me explain this to you. I would easily pay $50-$60 for this and not bat an eye.
I would pay $50 for this if it was a 750 milliliter bottle. For a 1.75 liter bottle to be $20 is crazy.
Right. Now there's when you look at whiskey, you see all these different labels, and a lot of these whiskeys are coming out of the same distillery, right?
Right.
Or there's a number of
liquor distributors,
right? Like a lot of whiskeys that you see out there, all are coming from Buffalo Trace, or others are coming from
Jim Beam,
Maker's Mark, whatever. So this particular whiskey is coming from the Heaven Hill distillery.
Right.
Now, Heaven Hill no longer makes the specific white label Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond. They don't make it anymore. I have one of the last bottles. I have two of the last bottles of the Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond. Yes, that's a humble brag. It's not even humble.
It's a brag.
Have to fuck off.
I have this and you don't.
Right. But how it's still getting out, and that Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond, I think, is another phenomenal, very good whiskey. And the bottles that I have, if you
is the Heaven Hill the green label? You said white label.
Well, Heaven Hill, they have a green label and a white label.
Okay.
You have a white label in yours here,
right?
In our illustrious studios.
Yes.
But it's not a Bottled and Bond.
Right. The green label is the Bottled and Bond?
No.
Okay, sorry.
The Bottled and Bond is a white label. And you have a white label that is not a Bottled and Bond.
Okay.
And so we've talked about some of the criteria for Bottled and Bond before. It's got to be 100 proof. It's got to be aged for a minimum of, I believe, 3 years. It's got to be certified by,
whatever agency.
Yeah. And there's a couple other factors too as well. But like there's something that goes into that moniker of Bottled and Bond. And the reason why I will always go for Bottled and Bond is because I like my whiskey high proof.
Sure.
Right? And if it's a minimum of 100, then I'm good. So Heaven Hill makes Evan Williams.
Okay.
And they no longer make their Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond, but they make Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. And the Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond is really good. And this Evan Williams Bottled and Bond is really good, made by Heaven Hill. So for whatever reason, they stopped doing their own. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Evan Williams starts doing it. And I think they were just like, well, for whatever reason, it wasn't working under their label.
Slap a new label on it and see what happens. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it works. It works, fellas. Keep it up.
Yes.
And ladies, potentially. We don't know.
It works, y'all.
So, first of all, I got to hang out with you and some friends and had a really nice get-together yesterday at your place, so thank you. You smoked some meat that was fucking delicious, and we drank some really cool whiskeys there. The one you gave me, it was called an Orphan Barrel whiskey.
Right, the Orphan Barrel Rhetoric 22. It's one that a friend of mine got me in Michigan. They're really hard bottles to come by. Short kind of backstory on the Orphan Barrels. What the company does is they go to distilleries that are closed,
Right.
and they look and see if there's any barrels left over. And then they have a pretty cool technology that can tell you kind of how old the whiskey is in the barrel. They either let it continue to age for a little bit, or they bottle it right up, and then once it's gone, it's gone. And a lot of this whiskey, the youngest whiskey that they put out is 15 years. I believe they've gone up to 25, maybe even 30 years with some of the closed down distilleries that they found. And whiskey is weird because once you get beyond the 20-year mark, things change, right? And maybe not necessarily for the better, but you don't know, especially with American whiskey. With a Scotch or Irish whiskey, the longer you age it, chances are the better it's going to
It'll
get.
get smoother, but the
Right,
flavor profile doesn't change as much.
Right, but with American whiskey, it's a little bit different. And so it may get smoother, but it may not necessarily get better, so there's a risk. Well, I have that 22-year Orphan Barrel, the Rhetoric, and I think it's probably the best whiskey that I have on the shelf.
It's
at my house.
And your shelf is no joke. Honestly, Steve, I always hesitate to put best on anything, but I would say that is definitely it was phenomenal and maybe the most interesting whiskey I've ever had.
Yeah,
because
it's
flavor
wild.
profiles all over the place. Like at one point, I'm like, "Is this a cognac? No, it's too dry. Is this the sweetness, a ton of citrus, just fucking amazing." And I almost feel a little bit bad talking about this on the show because we talk about Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. We're like, "Go out and get this." We're talking about this and like, you won't be able to get this.
I mean, you can't. I mean, on the secondary market, you can go find it, but it's not. This one's not cheap.
Yes,
Stop!
your wife brought that up.
Stop! I have to deal with that as it is.
You come here not to deal with that.
Right.
Fair.
So it's not cheap, but let me tell you, it's pretty damn good.
And thank you for sharing it with me because that was one of the few whiskeys where I'm like, I'm going to remember tasting this for a long time. That was just unique.
And then
awesome.
and you know what's fun is the group. Most of the people there last night were into whiskey, so that's why I opened up the shelf and said, let's get some of the good ones out. But another, what's amazing is, we had that one, but the one that a lot of people liked was the Weller Special Reserve,
which is a great whiskey.
Which is a great whiskey. It's a wheated whiskey, and it is also $24 in Ohio. And that is just it's so amazing with American whiskey, their ability to give you these just crazy flavor profiles, at a high proof and good presentation, and yet they do it for under $30. There's very few Scotches or Irish whiskeys that can do that at that price point.
America, fuck yeah.
America, fuck yeah.
That's my
Period.
yeah. There we go.
I mean, because think about, like a $30 Scotch is Johnny Walker Red.
Black. I think you're black for $30.
I
Can
don't
you?
know if that's true.
Honestly, I don't drink Johnny Walker ever. So
I do.
But my favorite Scotch that's cheap is White Horse, which is a blend, but it's not that bad. It's got some Lagavulin in there. Stop it.
Okay.
Snob.
But I mean,
last night was tons of fun. I mean, you had been.
So the smoking thing, listen, so can we talk about smoking meat for a minute?
We can talk about smoking meat for 5 minutes.
You have an electric smoker.
I do.
And I've had your ribs, and they were amazing, right? Fall off the bone, great flavor, smoke, everything. I have a vertical smoker with an offset box, and so that means I use lump charcoal, and there's a lot that goes into it.
Yep.
And it drives me insane, right? I love having people over. I love cooking for people. I love I love the experience.
Sure.
I'm drinking Miller Lights during the day, and then once the food is done, then I switch to whiskey. It's manipulating, trying to make sure I keep my temperature down or up. and relighting the coal, the whole thing. It's a whole experience, and I love it.
Right.
And I also hate it because there's a lot of energy that goes into it. And when you have people over, the thing is that it kind of pulls me away from everybody else, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You guys are all in the house talking, or you're outside talking, and I'm literally...
I'm drinking your whiskey.
Right, you're drinking my whiskey, and at one point in time, I was screaming at the smoker. I was just yelling at the smoker and yelling at the sun.
Which are crazy things. The things crazy people do, by the way.
Right, exactly.
I'm wearing my Marty Malloy, Friend of a Crazy Person shirt. Right. It's got mutual uses. Martin Malloy, great comic. Look him up. Veryfunnycomedy.com.
But that was me yesterday. I'm screaming at my smoker. I'm screaming at the sun. But that's every time. Yeah. Every time, right? Because it's either the sun is out, which is great, but it's too hot and it's cooking up.
Right. And because you're using charcoal heat, you're not having something that's regulated with a feedback loop. Engineering nerd alert.
I don't even know what that means.
It means that
all of it.
Yeah. A feedback loop is like, hey, this is getting too hot. Turn the volume down. With charcoal, it's like, we're charcoal. We're burning. We're doing this shit. So I respect the art of smoking with charcoal, but I'm telling you, electric makes life so fucking much easier.
And I'm getting to a point where...
People used to cut it on with a sickle, Steve. Right. Now we've got lawnmowers.
Right. So
use a launmower.
I think at some point I'm going to have to make the switch. Now I'm not going to go electric.
Should we do a GoFundMe? Get Steve. So what's the one you want?
I want either either a Traeger or a Rectech. And they're both pellet smokers. They've got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth capabilities. They measure the temperature of the meat on its own and let you know when it's ready. I mean, it's a true, set it and forget it sort of deal.
You can watch it from 2,000 miles away if you want.
Essentially, and I mean, you get, everything I've seen. I know one person who has what I'm looking for. The meat always comes out amazing. And you can still do what I love to do. I love to have people over, and I love the fellowship.
Exactly. Wouldn't you enjoy it more if you could actually
if I could
camaraderie
instead of me running around sticking my hand in fire all day.
I've cooked pasta sauce for you as well as smoked meat and served you. When I make pasta sauce, every 15-20 minutes I'm running up, stirring, checking things, but I'm able to chill in that 15-minute gap, and I'm drinking wine typically during that process.
Right, and you're only doing it for what?
6 hours, 6 hours.
Right.
But it's
okay,
the last 5.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's work for an hour, and then every 15-20 minutes, 15 seconds of work. You are just jumping up and down, looking at shit, dealing with things, putting charcoal in. I mean,
starting fires, putting fires out.
And there's that.
For my daughter's birthday last year, do you know about this?
I was there.
Well, so in the morning early, I had some charcoal going, and you put it in this cylinder thing with a handle, and you put the charcoal in, you light it, you let it, you let the gas basically burn off, and then the charcoal will start to light, or they basically simmer down. Mm-hmm. And I did it in my front driveway, and we had a tent set up over the driveway in front of the garage. I do that there, and I go around back, and my neighbor comes out. We start to talk, and completely kind of just lose track of time, and then all of a sudden, I hear this huge explosion, like,
I do not know.
And I'm like, what the fuck? So I run, me and my neighbor run through my backyard. We go to the front, and nothing looks damaged, but something just feels off. It's that sort of Sixth Sense sort of deal where you're like, something's wrong, but you can't pinpoint it. Well, what was wrong was the cylinder got so hot, it made the concrete explode that it was sitting on. Right? I didn't put anything under it. I just put it in the driveway, and it shot up, and it didn't go through the tent, fortunately, but it pushed the tent, and one of the legs fell, and then it was on its side.
How do I not know this?
I don't think I told you.
Clearly.
Well, because, but that was at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then by the time you came over, it was 3. And, again, you spend a whole day, a lot of things happen.
And you're juggling family and friends.
Right, the whole thing, it was a mess. But so that happened, and then, so now if you look at my driveway to the left, right on the left-hand side, right at the entrance of the driveway, there is a perfect circle from where the concrete heated up and blew up.
I take a picture of this and put it on our Instagram.
I would prefer if you didn't, but I can't. Well, you can.
Actually, technically, you could stop me if you catch me at the right time.
Right. I mean, you can
also
do
know
it.
if I did it. Okay. Well,
it's my own stupidity. Because I know that things get hot and bad things happen when they get too hot.
This is when lawyers and engineers need to work together.
Yes, definitely.
All right. So, anyway, yesterday, thank you again. It was a lot of fun. Great food. Good company, interesting stories. We'll keep some of this between us because it won't make sense to the general public. But I spent last Thursday at a bourbon tasting at a local restaurant bar called Market. Mm-hmm. It was hosted by Rabbit Hole. We are currently drinking.
Market, by the way.
What's that?
I love Market.
I like it too. I like it a lot more after the the layout's great.
Yeah, I love the layout, and
it's like a sports bar, but it's hoity-toity. Great brunch.
Right. Their Sunday brunches.
Sunday brunches kick ass.
Phenomenal.
And they've been hosting these. I almost don't want to give the day because I don't want other people to steal our spots. But I went there for the Rabbit Hole rep, and it's called, they call it Bourbon Boardroom. Check it out. And Rabbit Hole took great care of us. They're like food pairings. They're just light tastings, but just things to mix with bourbons. They gave us two of their bourbons. One of them was made in a sherry cask, which was not my favorite. Their straight Kentucky bourbon I thought was great. Mm-hmm. Their rye I thought was fantastic. And I'm becoming a rye guy.
Yeah, you know what? And I think that's a natural evolution for a lot of people. I think initially a lot of people don't like rye. And then the more bourbon you drink, when you taste rye, you realize how explosive the flavor can be.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, now I can embrace it. I don't know how the evolution happens.
Actually, he talked about that a bit. Not the evolution of people tasting it, but the evolution of rye as a whiskey. How when the Dust Bowl happened, the government subsidized corn like crazy. And so that's why corn whiskey and bourbon must be 51 or more % corn to be a bourbon.
Right.
And so when that happened, all the farmers started growing corn like crazy because it was getting subsidized. And there's a bunch of things about that not so great. But that made rye whiskeys become less desirable to grow the crop to make. So recently, folks have started enjoying it, and there's more money in it. So
what's the crop to make to get rye?
Rye. It's a grain.
Oh.
But because corn was so much more profitable, no one made it, and so bourbons would have rye in them and other grains.
Oh yeah, rye bread. What am I thinking?
Yeah. It's that grain, right? Exactly. Yeah. That thing that's stuck in your teeth when you eat dry bread.
Yeah.
That's it. So anyway, it's interesting that it's making a comeback, and it's interesting to me to look at the politics behind, what led to the corn explosion that led to bourbons becoming the whiskey of choice. Anyway, it was cool. They have another one coming up next month. We're not giving out the details until we secure our spots, but something to check out. And the coolest thing they did, Steve, though, in addition to those things and the food pairings and having fun talking to the rep, who were hoping to get to talk to us in studio at some point, was they gave us a cocktail to start the day, and it was like it was basically like a Manhattan, but instead of being a traditional Manhattan with whiskey, sweet vermouth, bitters, little cherry juice, they made a cherry sorbet in a ball and dropped it into the whiskey with a little bit of vermouth. And this thing was so fucking good.
Ooh,
I mean, people they owned the crowd like that.
Ooh,
forget the food pairing. It was like a Slurpee
that
and a Manhattan and whiskey.
Sex in my mouth.
It was fucking amazing.
It's weird.
That was weird when you said it out loud, and it's getting recorded. All right, let's move on. That's not a segue. That's a punt.
Right.
But all right, so
punt and run.
We're going to try to do something a bit different. We're going to start talking fun stuff and go to politics later, just to see if people like it.
Well, we're already doing it.
True.
I mean, we've talked whiskey more than we
we've
normally do. We'll slide to politics in there, but I mean, honestly, if you listen to our show or if you listen to, it's just the fatigue.
Absolutely.
You have to have it, right? I mean, Trump and Republicans and Democrats and blah blah blah, yada yada yada, and it's all there, and it's all important.
And we'll still do it.
And we're not minimizing it, saying it's not important. But at this point in time, there's just so many other things out there to talk about. And I mean, the one thing, Jim, is you and I, we spent a ton of time together outside of recording the show.
Right.
And I think we have some really cool experiences centered around drinking. And at some point in time, yes, we're going to go to rehab, folks. But not anytime soon.
I'm not going to rehab.
Oh, all right. Well,
I'd be dead, but I'm not going to
what's
rehab.
weird is we both have the same affinity for Amy Winehouse, so we'll see how this works out.
No. I do not have a vocal acumen.
You don't.
But
Neither do I.
I'm still alive.
Ooh.
What, too soon?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Anyway. But I honestly we're at a point where we're tired of banging politics.
Yep.
Just tired of banging it every week. Trump did this. Trump said that. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer,
right.
Other political guy that most people don't know, or the few people who do, or people you don't want to talk to, and whatever. So we're going to talk about other stuff, that we find.
We'll get to the politics when it matters.
Yeah.
But one thing that came out this week, which I thought was interesting, was an article came out that Jay-Z was the first rap mogul to become a billionaire.
Yep.
And congrats, Jay-Z. You're fucking doing your thing, and you're killing it. Good for you.
My nigga Jigga.
Yeah, that was you, not me.
It's a song.
Okay. And I did not know that. But
you're not good at this rap thing.
No, I'm not. But I was a bit surprised that Dr. Dre didn't get there first. Just because he got so much money from Beats, and that was, we've talked about that in the past, that people said it was $1 billion deal. It was. It was actually it was 900 and whatever.
Well,
million.
It was $1 billion deal, but he didn't get directly $1 billion.
He had a bunch of partners and other shit.
Right, he had partners, he had other things, and
dude made a shit ton of money though.
But I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Dr. Dre made around $600 million off the Beats deal.
Okay.
Which is a shit ton of money.
Yeah, plus whatever he did. I'm surprised that didn't get him over the $1 billion goal
right,
line.
with everything.
Three commas.
Understanding the music industry, I have a really good friend. Actually, this came up last night. We were talking about music and things like that. And I have a friend from high school who is pursuing a rap career. And
you were talking about this last night. I was peripherally listening. Yes.
Right. And
I
people,
had no idea what you're talking about.
And so people give my buddy a hard time. So he's a white guy pursuing a rap career. He's my age. I went to high school with him. We graduated together. I've known him since we were in 5th grade. And he gets a really hard time. And I'm like, listen, I will always support him. One, he's as closest thing to a brother as I could have and not be a brother. But if he were pursuing a career in country music or rock or whatever, all our white friends would be very comfortable with it, and they would support him, and they would go, and they would wear the T-shirts and the whole thing. But because it's rap, it's stupid, and it's dumb, and he's not a good rapper, and, why is he doing this? Give it up, go get a real job, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And I think that's such it's obvious what's happening here. Right? And the reason why, and I can point to, and this is not anecdotal, well, it is to a degree, but it's not, because we have other friends that we went to high school with, that are older than us, that are in bands, right? They're in a band, playing the guitar and the drums and all that other stuff, whether it's country, we have friends that do country, friends that do rock, and my friends from high school will go to their shows and, do the support, put shit on Facebook and do the whole fucking thing. Right? And there's no difference.
Throw out the name if you want to, or if you prefer.
No, I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm not throwing out anyone's name one way or the other. But it frustrates me because I'm I support all of them. Right? Listen, I want all of them to succeed. I don't care what genre of music it is.
Right. They're friends,
just
they're high school friends, right?
And the funny thing is, the people that are most critical of my buddy who's doing the rap thing, we're kids from the 90s from Youngstown. We grew up on rap hip-hop. Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, Tupac, Biggie, Mobb Deep, even Rex and Effects, we grew up.
Rump Shaker.
Rump Shaker.
Look at that.
There you go. We grew up with all of that shit. Hip hop is literally what raised us, and then they all turned 25, started having kids because they married some rich guy, or they became accountants. And, married some really hot white girl from the suburbs, and now they all listen to country, and that's the only thing, and they spend $500 on Garth Brooks tickets. Which is fine. I don't like what you like, but be true to who you are and who you have been the whole time, right? Like, you didn't have a problem with it when we were all going to school together. You didn't have a problem with it, when we were in high school or when we were in college. And you didn't have a problem with it when you were, going through your find me phase in your early 20s, and then all of a sudden, you get prim and proper and you completely forget your roots. Like, there's a lot of things that go into that, right? Like, part of this is race, and we don't have to necessarily get into that because it's hard to explain. But I just think it's kind of horseshit that I got this kid, and my buddy, he just released a single with Scarface. Scarface is one of the goats of rap, right? I mean, he's Scarface from Houston, Fifth Ward boy.
I like his old stuff. I don't.
You have no idea what I'm talking about. No idea what I'm talking about.
Let's talk about movie star Al Pacino. I know that.
But listen, I mean, like, Scarface is a huge rapper. The Diary is one of the greatest rap albums of all time. And my friend just released an album with this guy. Is doing an album release, released a song with this guy. The song is on the album. He did an album release party, and a lot of people at my little get together last night were kind of making fun of it. And I'm like, listen, that's an amazing accomplishment. One, the kid made an album and is able to release it, and he's got a song with fucking Scarface.
Yeah,
right. Like, I mean,
can you give a rap equivalent to Scarface?
What do you mean?
Just like, if you're gonna, in terms of like how big a name Scarface is, because you caught me, I don't know. Is this like Steven Tyler? Is this Mick Jagger? Is this?
I mean,
Billy Joel? I'm trying to.
If you listen to rap, who?
I'm just.
I'm trying to. That's a great question. So, who would be his equivalent
rock or something
in another genre of music? I mean, man, that is a great question.
You mean
it's so hard. It's so hard to do that because, I mean, if I guess I would say the Scarface equivalent in another genre of music would probably be You know what? So this is weird.
You want to pass?
No, I don't want to pass. I'm going to say this, and it may be controversial, and I know someone's going to immediately, as soon as they hear this, I'm probably going to get a text. Dave in Philly. But
right.
I think Scarface may be the equivalent to Johnny Cash.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to hear you say that because you are not a big fan of the old school country.
I am a big fan of old school country.
Oh, you don't like Johnny Cash, though? Do you?
I do, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I love Johnny Cash. I don't know
but
why
I'm sorry, you know what? I'm confusing her to talk about Johnny Cash with her to talk about Elvis.
I hate Elvis.
That's right. Okay.
I hate Elvis.
Yes, we talked about this.
I am a big fan of Johnny Cash.
I love both Elvis and Johnny Cash, actually.
I don't like Elvis. I'm a big Johnny Cash fan.
Okay. I'm sorry I mixed those things up, but I remember you going off on one of the old school. I like Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, and Elvis a lot.
I like Johnny Cash. I like
Willie
Nelson. Elvis, never.
I apologize for mixing it up. But getting it back to Jay-Z, what an accomplishment. First billionaire from the rap music era.
Right. I mean, no, listen, if you go to the top 10 richest musicians in the world, 3 out of the 10 are rappers, right? Jay-Z,
Dr. Dre,
and Sean Puffy Combs, Diddy.
Okay. Not like Drake or anyone like that?
No, I mean, I'm sure Drake is getting up there.
Close, yeah.
But the reason why this happens, and so you're surprised it's not Dr. Dre because of the Beats deal, everything else.
He's been in the game for
so long.
Yes,
he's been in the game for so long, but Jay-Z's been in the game longer than you realize. I mean, Reasonable...
No, you're right.
Reasonable Doubt came out in 2016... I'm sorry, in 1996.
Okay, I'm like,
sorry,
wait a minute.
Sorry, my phone flashed and I lost my train of thought.
Shiny objects will do that to us when we're drinking whiskey.
Reasonable Doubt, arguably, again, another top 10 album of all time in the world of rap. And that album came out in 1996. And Jay-Z was in the game probably a few years prior to that. But the thing about Jay-Z and how he's able to get to his millions, it just wasn't one thing.
Right.
It was music, and then it was the streaming service, and then he has a sports agency company, Rock Nation, and he has all these various streams of income.
Right.
And he even he's invested in art and he's invested in real estate and all of those things amassed. Listen, you want to you want to work with Jay-Z, Beyonce, LeBron James. You have to give them ownership of your company.
A portion of your, not ownership,
right?
but
a portion.
Shares.
Okay, yeah, but still, if someone came to me and you,
I'm sorry, that is ownership. I just want to sum up.
But if someone came to me and you and said, "Hey, we're going to give you $1 million to promote, our
Whiskey Congress
fabric softener," okay, fine, sure. We'll do your fabric softener on our show, and they give us $1 million, we think, hey, great. Well, Jay-Z, Beyonce, LeBron James, all those people, what they said is, you know what? Keep your $1 million. Give us, we think your product is really good and it's going to take off. And with us promoting it, it's going to go through the roof. So we want partial ownership of the company.
And we want 10% or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And that's what LeBron James did with Beats. He said, listen, I'll promote your Beats headphones. I don't want money. Just give me partial ownership of the company. Jay-Z, that's what he does with everything. Right? In Beyonce, the same way. Beyonce did a deal with Adidas or Reebok or one of them. I think Adidas owns Reebok. So Beyonce did a deal with Adidas and started her own of whatever. No one knows about it, but it makes a ridiculous amount of money a year. And boom, here we are. She's worth whatever she's worth. Same thing. I think you were about to jump in and tell me about Rihanna being,
worth
the first.
More. Well, that is so. Rihanna passed Beyonce in terms of the most wealthy female entertainer, and we talked about this at your place the other day. But that's largely because of her cosmetics line,
right?
Which is cool. Owns. Which, by the way, back to Jay-Z and Beyonce. The fact that is there a bigger power couple in America right now?
Is there a sexier woman in America
than Beyonce?
Right now?
No. This is a bit behind the scenes, but I've been using a cannabis product a little bit lately. I won't say if it's CBD or THC. I know, I'm being deceptive, whatever. But I've been listening to a lot of music while I'm doing this shit, and I watched Crazy in Love, the video of Crazy in Love by Jay-Z and Beyonce the other day, and she is one of the sexiest women I've ever seen. In that video, it is just ridiculous how hot she is. It's criminal how hot she is.
Her body is perfect. Right,
everything about it is perfect.
It's just wow. It's strong, but it's not too muscular. It's smooth. She looks like she smells amazing. Right, her hair is always blonde. Part of that is the video aspect of making her look like a superstar. But I've seen her at things they show her at basketball games, and you're like, well, Beyonce is still fucking hot. And I think it's just her attitude, her confidence. Everything about Beyonce screams, you are one of the sexiest women ever, right? She that's just who and what she is, and she knows it and she owns it. And if you've ever seen Beyonce perform live, it is,
which I have not.
I have, and I was very fortunate. There was a year I was big on when I lived in Chicago, seeing live performances. And so in one year, I saw Justin Timberlake, Beyonce, Fall Out Boy, and a lot of people were like, Fall Out Boy? Well, I'm a big Fall Out Boy fan. That's
really?
I love him. I don't know.
That sort of surprises me.
Yeah, I know.
You're a huge Hall & Oates fan, which I know we talked about this the other day. It's driven by growing up and it being played in your house, but you're a rap guy and you like some old school stuff and you're huge on Hall & Oates. I'm like,
love Hall & Oates.
Okay, that's odd.
Every time you go.
I didn't think we were going to do Steve's Got Talent.
But it just going with Beyonce, seeing her live, when you say someone captivates you, she just you can't look at she's got backup dancers, all this shit going on, fireworks and things are happening, and she is the only thing you can look at. She's the only person, the only thing you can look at in the arena.
One that's amazing, two not surprising.
You look at her and it feels like she's singing to you, right? It feels like she's singing to you, and You're just like, yeah, me and Beyonce had this thing the other night. What? Yeah,
Jay-Z might object, but okay.
Right, like I went to her concert and she totally sang to me. Just you? Yeah. How close are you? I was 40 rows back and 50 rows up, but she was singing directly to me. That's how good she is. And when she performed at the Super Bowl, do you remember this?
do.
Her performance at the Super Bowl, people got mad, and because she,
Not me.
she did something about formation, and people were like, "Oh, this is against police," and I'm like,
Oh, I forgot.
Okay.
I couldn't remember what the controversy was with that.
I mean, maybe, I guess, but did you see her? And I mean, I see Beyonce, and I'm just like, you're everything right in the world.
I will not.
She
object
gives
to
me
that.
faith in humanity.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, I was the other day. I was watching the
And
video.
that ugly
Crazy Love.
motherfucker Jay-Z somehow figured out a way to marry her.
Well, good for him. Good.
And now he's a billionaire.
And he's a billionaire, so that doesn't hurt. Way to bring that full circle. All right, totally switching gears. I don't even know how we do this segue. But one of the weirdest things in the news this week was the security guard at the Parkland High School is being charged with multiple crimes and facing trial. I have pretty strong feelings
he's been charged. He's got to go to a grand jury.
Okay.
So we'll see. And so I have mixed feelings about it. No, my feelings actually are pretty distinct. So this guy, just to clear it up, he was the sheriff and the school resource officer at Parkland when the kid goes off and
Sheriff's
shoots.
deputy.
Sheriff's deputy, okay, but still.
He worked for the sheriff. I'm just saying he was
Right.
the elected
Okay,
sheriff.
but I mean, the kid killed, 17 people?
I think that's right, yeah.
And he is armed.
Yes.
And not only does he not go in to stop the kid, but he tells other officers to not come within, 500 feet of the school. Right?
Okay,
and,
I didn't.
No, he did. No,
Okay.
I know that for a fact. I heard the radio call.
Okay.
And so he's not, obviously he's being sued, but now he's being charged criminally for neglect of duty and failure to protect.
Failure to protect children is the biggest crime, which is a felony.
And so I think this guy is just, he's a coward, right?
I won't go that far.
I will.
Okay.
He's a coward.
All right.
There's just no way, there's just no fucking way I'm going to sit there with kids in a school.
I agree with that.
And I'm not going to go in. Even if I don't have a gun, I'm telling you, I will kick in the door and I will go in, even if that means if it ends with a bullet in my head. Period.
Let me rewind that a bit. Because
But if you don't think like I think, that's not a crime.
Right.
And that's...
I would say Hulk smash isn't everybody's prime thought. No offense.
Okay, fine. All right, and so...
Here's your secret. You're always angry.
Right. Well, one great line in that movie.
Thank you.
But Avengers,
Yes.
first Avengers. But listen, it's not a crime to not have the hero gene, right? It's not a crime to be a coward, unless your fucking job is to not be a pussy.
See, I can't go there. I can't call this not being a pussy. I mean, first of all, I can't put myself in his shoes in this circumstance because I don't know what he was processing. I have a big problem with this being treated in a criminal sense because...
Well, there's a difference, and I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
I just, all this to say, I don't like this guy. I don't like this guy. I don't want him anywhere. I want him to lose his badge, lose his gun, lose money, all of it.
I don't want him going to prison.
Should he be criminally processed, or should he be criminally liable for what happened at Parkland? No.
Okay, good.
And now it's a double-edged sword because, on the one hand, we're screaming for police officers to be charged, when they overreact and they do too much.
True.
Right. So now we're going okay, but the reality is, if we're just laying it all out there, we're screaming at these guys for not doing enough or for doing too much,
right?
And then we're screaming at this guy for not doing enough.
I'm not screaming at the guy for not doing too much. Not doing enough.
I
am. You are. Okay.
I am. I am directly screaming at him for not doing enough. And then all the police say, you don't understand, and blah, 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 fuck off. You don't understand your fucking job. If you don't understand that when someone is shooting at kids in a fucking school, you go in and you resolve it. And if you can't resolve it, then you give up your life to do it. That's what that means. Period.
Okay. And he didn't. And we agree, though.
And he should. And
to make it a criminal offense, I think is ridiculous.
Well, the only reason you can't make it a criminal offense is because when you have a police officer who does use force, then all of a sudden that makes things very complicated. Now, listen. The problem is we have an issue with police officers using excessive force. Right. So counterbalancing this versus that is very, very difficult. Right. You can't. I don't believe that you can have a definitive position on both and be right. Right. I mean, I just feel like it's a very this is nuance. This is gray area. This is different than that and this, but they're all connected. And this is a difficult issue, so we have to be careful. And as much as I would love to see this guy just punished, and I would love to be the one who's able to punish him, lock me in a room with him, turn off the cameras, and whatever happens, happens.
Okay, Ocean's 11 moment, and
fine.
Kind of weird, but okay.
But I would love to see this guy punished. But I don't think the punishment can happen through our criminal justice system. It's not right. Now, should he be sued?
Sure, sue the fuck out of the guy.
Drain him.
Sue the fuck out of the guy. Well, there's probably not much to drain, unfortunately.
Whatever he's got, take it all.
But exactly, he should never be allowed to work in that
capacity.
Again, I agree. But to make this a criminal act, to me, is a step too far, and it's kind of.
And I think legally, I don't think that this will go too far legally, and if it does, the problem is it's Florida. And
that's a problem with a lot of things.
Yes, and we'll get to more Florida stuff later, but it's Florida. So,
but Steve, isn't it also that when you prosecute somebody and you try to get it to a trial? So, all right, so you prosecute someone, you try to get them to plea. They're not. Let's say he doesn't do that. It goes to trial. Now you're just counting. If you're him or his lawyer, you're counting on deflecting the emotion of the thing, not the legality, because legality falls by the wayside.
That's trial law.
Shit.
That's trial. Like trial law is more about emotion than it is about legality.
I know.
Right? Like your job. Like once you get into trial, as whether you're a prosecutor or the defense, or if it's civil, either way, your whole thing is to bring in emotion and tie it to legality, right? Like you want to pray, like you're looking at jurors, right? When you go through Vardor and you're looking at jurors, you're saying, can you relate in a beneficial way to what's gone in this scenario? And then, can I get you to think like I think like we think, and say and do what we want you to do? And we'll connect it to the law, but I need you to connect on a personal, emotional level. That's what it's about. And it's...
Let's not get too down to the... But you're right. I experienced it personally as a juror.
You've been there
you've
as
listened
a juror.
to me talk about this a lot, and we talk about it a fair bit on the show. So dig back. I don't want to relive that.
No. We don't have to relive that. But I mean, so with this guy, what I'm saying is my emotion says he needs to go away. I don't like him. I he shouldn't have a job.
But you like someone, but not put them in prison.
Legally, I'm not charging him.
Right. I agree with that completely.
I'm not charging him because if you're going to charge him, then why don't you charge the teacher that didn't come out of the classroom and tackle the shooter? Why don't you charge the...
I can argue that. But just in general, if a cop arrives on the scene and doesn't jump in and throw himself in front of a victim, he's not a criminal.
Right. And we also have the Supreme Court that's come out and said police aren't charged with the duty to protect.
Right.
Right. The Supreme Court has said that. right?
Yeah.
Like, so how do you reconcile the two? And how they're trying to do it is what they're trying to say is, well, there's a law in Florida that if you, I forget what the exact title is, because I'm not up on Florida law because I wasn't able to move there like I should have. But
no, you shouldn't have.
I shouldn't have. Right?
You would not be alive if you lived in
I
Florida.
like Florida. I love the sun and I love the water. Either way, if you are
and live in Cleveland and love 4 days a week. 4 days a month. Sorry, 4 days a year was the joke I was trying to get out.
yeah, I got it. But there's a law in Florida, something about if you're charged with the duty to protect, if you're a teacher, caregiver, whatever, like you have certain duties,
legal responsibility,
right?
okay.
And so they're trying to sweep this school resource officer under that statute, and that's how they're charging him. It may work to charge him. I don't think that he ends up being guilty. I don't think he should be guilty. I don't think he should be charged. But is he a coward? Yes. Should he lose his job? Yes. Should he ever work with children again? No.
Okay.
Should he have a gun? No. Like, I mean, you know, I want this guy to completely go away, but I don't think he should
be prosecuted criminally. I agree with most of what you said. I mean, again, calling him a coward.
He is a coward.
I have not listened to the tape, and
He is a coward.
All right,
You know he is.
I know I don't.
Yeah,
'Cause I
you
don't know what he was processing. I don't know. I mean,
Kids, gunfire, you go in, you save them. Period.
But do you know where it's coming from? What did he know at the time? I
care.
don't know.
Go.
Okay, all right.
There's too many people. Listen, there's too many people who have done it. We've seen it time and time
We've
again.
seen civilians without weapons jump in front of. I get it. I'm not saying this guy's a hero. Just to say he's a coward.
He's a coward.
All right. I want to move on because I don't.
I'm sure he does too.
Yeah,
he's a coward.
All right. So, last week was the beginning of Pride Month, and there was a parade in Cleveland. I actually went down to the Pride Walk. Well, actually, it's not true. I missed the Pride Walk because I misread the map. But I met friends afterwards, got drunk, and played poker and had a good time.
I misread them.
It was
You know what's funny? I was there too. I took my so my younger cousin is living with me for the summer while she figures out her college, like how she's going to wrap up college. She was at one school, had a bad experience there, and so she's trying to figure out where she's going to transfer to. All this is happening late, but it seems like it's going to be Cleveland State. So she's living with me, and but she is trying to figure out her sexuality, kind of flirting with, you know, girls and the whole thing. And so I said, all right, well, you want to go downtown? Like, it's Pride Month and they're having a parade. And she did. So I took her down, but she also has a thing with crowds. So
well, that would have been a bad choice then.
Right. So we went down.
Place.
We went down, and I was looking for a place to park. And she said, "Ooh, this is more than what I thought it was." She goes to a very, like, her last school was very small, liberal arts, 500 students at the school, right? And then now we're in downtown Cleveland with 5,000 people downtown, rainbow flags, the whole thing. And
it was more than 5,000.
Yeah, I was throwing a number. It was wild, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy down there. And, we're in Public Square. And, I park and I'm trying to get her into this, and just because I'm trying to be supportive, right? And she's like, no, I'm good. This is too many people, too much. So we left, and we got tacos. I got beer and whiskey, and I got beer and tequila. I felt better. She felt better. It was better we weren't there, but
I went down there, and it was actually a positive event. I had a good time.
Although there was one guy who had looked like he passed out because maybe he was dehydrated or just...
Oh, look, the boozing and the other shit going on was definitely prevalent.
The other shit going on is... I have questions about that.
With the weed shit or the...
No, there was something else going on besides weed.
Okay.
Well, they were having a nice time. I'm just curious what it was.
All right. But anyway,
want some too.
You know what? I went down to the Gay Pride Parade because I have multiple gay friends, and a few of them wanted to meet me there, and I met them. Or one of them drank too much the night before and couldn't make it. Turns out she drank too much at my house.
Ooh.
So anyway, after that, some organization based in Boston wants to have a straight pride parade. And I think that is the most annoying, dopey thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. Well, first, let me say this. First of all, go ahead and do it. Walk through downtown Boston and say, I'm straight and I'm proud. Good for you, to quote the great Christian Bale.
Good for you.
Good for you. What a tool. I mean, we need a straight pride parade. Why don't we go? Fuck right off.
It's the same thing as the people
say, why can't we have one entertainment television?
Yeah.
Fuck right off. And I have little more to say to them than fuck right off. Steve, I did something you would be amazed I did. I walked into a Facebook political battle, asked a question. So basically, one of my friends from the comedy scene posted, the reason we don't have a straight pride parade is because straight people have not been oppressed for their sexuality. And one of his moron friends wrote in, what about prison rape? And I literally wrote to the guy, I responded and said, are you trying to be funny or trying to make a serious point? He replied, I think that's a pretty serious issue, and I walked the fuck away. Did not do anything. That was insane.
I mean, good. No, that's a good job out of you to walk away, but I mean, it's insane
that moron thought that was a legitimate argument why a straight pride parade was a good thing to have because, well, straight people have been raped in prison by gay people, so therefore we need a parade to fuck right off and eat a bag of dicks while you're doing it. And I mean that in the most awful way you could possibly take it. What a clown. And the fact that moron wrote that and then stood by it.
Did I ever tell you the story where I sent my friend a bag of dicks?
No.
So there's a service
I really hope this isn't a...
So there's a service where you can send someone a box of dicks, and when they open it, like, confetti pops out, and, like, these little paper glitter dicks pop out. So...
No, I do not know
One of my best friends, who works for one of the sports teams here in Cleveland, I've known him forever. And I see this online, and I think I may have had a whiskey or two. One night, I'm sending him a box of dicks.
A box of dicks or a bag of dicks? Because a bag of
It
dicks.
came in a box, but the box, there was a bag in the box. Right. Either way, he got a box or a bag of dicks. Either way. So I sent it to him, and I didn't put who it was from.
Of course, it was anonymous. You don't send a box of dicks.
So I sent it to him, and I told one of our other friends, one of our other close friends, who's one of the worst people at keeping secrets ever, but...
So it's on you.
Right, so it's on me, but I told him, but lo and behold, he kept this secret. So... I sent it to him, like 2 months later. We're out together as a group, and we're drinking, and he's just like, guys, I gotta tell you this. I'm really worried. I think one of my employees sent me a bag of dicks. I don't know if it's somebody that quit, or somebody that's unhappy with me, but I've been paranoid ever since. I don't know which one it is. Like, people are looking at me, and I don't know if they're looking at me because, I'm wearing mismatched shoes and a mismatched tie, or if they're the ones who sent me a bag of dicks, but it's driving me insane, and I don't know whether to fire people or give everybody a bonus. I don't know what to do, but it's ruining my life at work. Right, like he was breaking down, and so
and then good Steve and bad Steve are on either
right,
shoulder.
So good Steve and bad Steve are on the shoulder. Bad Steve won for about 20 minutes, dragging it out like, "Oh, tell me more." Oh, well, let's try
to. An asshole.
And I'm like, "Hey, let's try to figure out who it is."
You are
right.
And I don't know what you're telling me. This is not so shitty.
Let's narrow down the suspects.
Dun, dun, dun.
We go through this whole thing, and finally,
there is no Kaiser Soze.
Right. So finally, I pull out my phone and I pull out the receipt because I did it online. I did it online on my phone. And then he's talking.
That's so great.
I pull the receipt up, I put it on my phone, and I slide it over to him. And then I show him, and he's like, "What is this?" I was like, "Well, it's a receipt for a thing that I did." And he's like, "Well, what is it?" I'm like, "Just read the receipt. It's pretty awesome." So he looks at it, and he's just like, "What do you just buy the most random shit? What is this for?" And I'm like, "Hold on, scroll up. What? Oh. Then he was pissed at me.
Awesome.
Right.
Well, he has a right to be pissed. But it's a great gag, though. That's what a great gag's ended somebody from pissed. I mean, what can I say? It's fucking
and
awesome.
I just realized the friend that's terrible at keeping secrets listens to our show.
Yeah, well,
and he's gonna
know you're not going to. But you gave.
Well, actually, maybe he may not. It may go right over his head.
If he doesn't, If he doesn't, maybe he doesn't listen to our show. He's lying about it.
No, he does.
Fuck, okay.
He does.
All right.
Josh, you know who you are.
Oh, I know who Josh is. Oh, fuck. Now I know who. This is a guy who told... I met this guy, and he was like, I thought you would look like Seth Rogen. I'm like, I don't know how to take that. And
that was the whole thing.
That was the whole thing. All right. We have gone a bit long here. I want to do a bonus episode, but we do need to do politics real quick, and then we can talk about the other stuff. Part 2, no?
What politics do we do? Oh.
Yeah, Trump in Europe was kind of a fucking disaster.
You know what? It wasn't, though. You know why? Because ultimately it's not going to impact him at all.
It won't impact his... you know what?
Jim, how's it going to impact him?
All right, how does it impact us? Because it makes America look like we voted in a dope.
We did.
We did.
Okay,
right.
It does. It does look like we voted in a dope. We did vote in a dope, and it doesn't matter. Right? The people who support him will ignore everything that he does wrong just because... They can get behind it, and literally,
I don't care about that.
You know why people will support Trump? Because, hey, listen, just because I voted for Trump, I'm not a racist, right? Like, that's literally the only argument for them voting for him, right? Like, that doesn't mean that, like, and part of the problem is the progressives and the Democrats who will hurl out the term, you're a racist if you do XYZ, and XYZ happens to be everything if you're a white person, right? So the Democrats and the progressives on the left, they pull this shit on themselves. Trump exploits it completely by just being a pure asshole, right? You know, he's like, you know how I'm going to win? I'm going to be a bag of dicks. And people apparently in, 38% of the country were looking for a guy being a bag of dicks. And they voted for him, and they love him.
Way overused today,
right? And they embrace him, but they do, and they're willing to ignore all his bullshit because ultimately, he's doing what they can't do in their day to day, right? Like they wanna yell at the black guy in their office, and they wanna tell the woman to go fuck off and stick a finger in her asshole, and they want to do all Trump does all the things they want to do, so they will embrace him no matter what, whether they call themselves evangelical or conservative or whatever, even though he is none of those things. Trump couldn't spell the word Bible. Trump knows nothing of fiscal responsibility. Trump knows nothing of policy, legislation, nothing, right? Like,
he's just tariff thing with Mexico was a fucking catastrophe.
Right, like all he's doing is just like, listen, Trump is nuclear option guy, right? I want to use nukes. You can't use nukes. All right, fine. Then I want to use legislative nukes, right? So I'm gonna hit everybody.
Economic nukes, probably.
Legislative, economic, whatever you want to call it. But we're just gonna hit everybody with tariffs, and I'm gonna be Captain Extreme on everything from economics and legislation and blah blah blah. And either you love me or you hate me. Either way, you can't beat me.
But, and this is a case of words matter, though, to me, because when he did the whole, we're going to put tariffs on Mexico, everyone in Congress, including Republicans, said, dude, can't do that. And then he came out and said, well, we're putting these tariffs on until they control things at the border, and said, and now they're doing it, so I win, and they're controlling things at the border, so these tariffs are postponed. And that is such obvious horseshit. And yet, he's pulling it off. So I guess that's more to your point than mine.
Yes. Listen, what he figured out is, for the longest time, these politicians have they've tried to outsmart everybody, right?
Right.
Trump figured out it's not about outsmarting anybody.
Smart doesn't win.
Dumb it down.
Yeah, fair.
Right? I told you many episodes ago about a phrase called "put it where the goats can get it."
Right.
And that's what Trump does. Trump puts it where the goats can get it.
Where did you get that phrase from?
It's an old term.
Okay.
I mean,
all right, just curious. I've never heard it.
My grandmother used the term. I mean, I've heard lots of old black people use that term all the time. Put it where the goats can get it.
It makes a point. I'll grant you that.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's what Trump does. And the goats are getting it, and they love it.
And he does it well. All right. Enough politics. This has been fun. And there's some great stories out there that do not get the coverage they deserve. Fair. Not because they're great
journalistic,
right? But they're fun to talk about. So, your boy, Le'Veon Bell.
Well, he's not my boy.
Formerly your boy.
Former boy.
Your boy who ran off to New York City for bigger, better things.
Allegedly, supposedly.
Whatever.
One, I will say, I don't think he did what he wanted to do.
No, I think he fucked up. We argued about this back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
You always want to support the athlete for doing what they can do, and I respect that.
So, you know what happened? Ultimately,
he made a bad decision.
Le'Veon Bell, it ended up being a wash, and so you lose money, right?
A lot.
Because you set out a year, the time value of money is what it is. You didn't earn that money. You lost $14 million. You signed a deal for less money with the Jets. You can argue all you want about guaranteed money up front, but the Steelers pay 88% of the guaranteed money that they pay to the athletes that they draft, right? And that number is significant because other teams don't have that same number. So Le'Veon Bell fucked up by doing what he did. But apparently he just wanted out of Pittsburgh, and that's fine. So he wants out of Pittsburgh. He's living down in Florida. He has 2 girlfriends. They stole $500,000. $500,000.
Are you having a stroke?
$500,000 worth of jewelry.
You use the word about me stroking out. Are you stroking out?
Yes, I'm stroking out because they stole $500,000 worth of jewelry from me.
First of all, what does $500,000 worth of jewelry look like?
I don't know. That's my problem. $500,000 worth of jewelry? Now, listen, dude's worth buku billions, right? Like, I mean, he's probably made
$20 million, $30 million, whatever.
It's probably, I mean, yeah, I mean, he...
No, probably not much more than that, Steve.
No.
He's pretty young.
No, I mean, he had his rookie contract, then he did play on the franchise tag 1 year.
Okay.
Right?
Like 10, 12 million, whatever.
Yeah, it was 12 million.
I say 12 million, whatever. Like,
right. Like
well, it's nothing to me.
Right. And then he didn't play for 14 million in 1 year, and now he just signed a contract worth 40 million.
So before we get into the fact
I think he's doing okay.
He's doing fine. But do you have a problem with how the Steelers handled him?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, they did it wrong.
Okay.
They fucked up.
Okay.
Their whole thing is fucked up.
Okay.
Right? I mean, because like the league has changed, the contracts have changed, and I think the Steelers did what they did with Le'Veon Bell, and they did it for a reason because they had just signed Antonio Brown to a monster contract.
And how'd that work?
And they didn't want to pay out. They didn't want to pay out these 2 big contracts, so they hedged on Le'Veon Bell. And the issue with Le'Veon Bell is the fact that he's a running back. That's the other problem. And their argument and his argument were actually the same. His argument was, I'm a running back, but I'm also the second leading wide receiver on the team, and my skill set is dynamic. And they're like, yeah, but you're a running back. And
so his argument was, I'm more than one thing. Their argument was, the one thing you are does not have a long shelf life in this league.
Exactly.
So we're not going to pay you that length, that duration. Yep.
And so I guess on the one hand, like I see this 2 ways, and as a diehard Steeler fan, I fight it because there's 2 ways to look at this. The Steelers are right or the Steelers are wrong, and I think actually both are true. The Steelers were right, but they are wrong. But are they better off? I can argue they're better off because the Steelers won you realize the last Super Bowl the Steelers won was against the Cardinals. It was in 2000, I want to say 9.
7? Okay, 9.
Right, maybe the 2009
right.
Super Bowl of the 2008 year. But they won that Super Bowl. They beat the Cardinals. And the running back was Willie Parker, who got hurt. And the running back in the Super Bowl was Mowell D. Moore. Do you remember Mowell D. Moore?
Who?
Do you remember? No, you don't remember.
I remember Tim Smith. Do you remember Tim Smith?
I do. Oh, well, I do, but
most people, right? He ran for 200 yards as a running back for the Redskins in like 1989, and may not have played another down in the league.
I mean,
Yeah,
but I mean, the whole point is, like, Ben Roethlisberger won a Super Bowl with a really good defense. Santonio Holmes, Hines Ward, and Heath Miller.
Yep.
Right? Like, Hines Ward was the slowest receiver of all time, I am convinced.
He was a bad motherfucker.
But he was a bad motherfucker. He could block. His hands were reliable, and you could count on him.
He was fearless.
Right. You can count on him no matter what. Heath Miller, again, consistent guy you could count on, blah, blah, blah. Santonio Holmes was your most explosive guy, and Santonio Holmes was not nearly what Antonio Brown is.
Right.
Right? And Ben Roethlisberger won a Super Bowl with that. So, are the Steelers better off without Antonio Brown, without Le'Veon Bell? Everyone is saying no. I am saying I think they may be, because if they're a better team, then yes. But the focus of all this is that motherfucker Le'Veon Bell got $500,000 of jewelry stolen from him from his 2 girlfriends. He went to work and came back. The bitches were gone, and the jewelry was gone. Dear Le'Veon Bell, you dumb motherfucker, stop being Instagram hoes. That is all this is. They were two random broads that he found on Instagram who took advantage of the situation, who said, oh, you're going to pay for us to come to Miami? You're going to pay for us to live? Oh, you're going to let us live at your house? Oh, you're going to... There's no rules. We can do whatever as long as we give you a handy, a blowjob, a whatever.
There better be more than a handy for that.
I'm sure. So he's got these two girls. He goes to work out. He comes back. They're gone. Jewelry's gone. I feel no sympathy for you at all.
I completely agree. Now, those women did commit a crime, probably.
And they disappeared. But I haven't even seen an accurate picture of who they are. And I don't think he actually has one.
That's what happens when you leave $500,000 of shit laying around your house.
Part of me is just like, I kind of hope they get away with it.
You know what? 100% of me, I hope they
right.
get away with it.
I want them to get away with it.
It's kind of funny to me. If that makes me a bad person, I've owned up to that a long time ago.
That will listen. If I hit the lottery, right, or whatever, then my opinion on that may change.
Mine too. But you know what won't change? I will not have $500,000 of jewelry laying around my house for people to grab. And if I do, and I have Instagram models here blowing me, I'm not leaving the house and letting that happen.
Right. Put that shit in the safe. What are you doing?
What do you mean?
No, not you. I'm sorry. I'm expressing my disgust with Le'Veon Bell.
Okay, I'm doing nothing. All right.
But
that's a
you know
funny
what?
story to me.
But I will say this. I do hope he has a successful season.
Good for you. You're a bigger man than me. He plays for the Jets now. So.
Oh well, yeah. In your division, he's not even in my
right.
That's why
exactly.
I can be okay with that.
All right. So one other semi-serious issue I want to touch on real quick is there was a fan of the Toronto Raptors who, on a television interview, said something inappropriate about.
What did the fan say?
The fan said that was it Alicia Curry? He asked about Toronto is beating Golden State.
Alicia or Aisha?
I think maybe anyway. Steph Curry's wife. And he said, we're going to fuck her right in the pussy, which is a dopey thing that came from a meme. It's vulgar. It's rude. It's inappropriate. Anytime you talk about another person's wife or husband
whatever you say, you're going to fuck somebody
without
public,
their consent,
right?
that's revolting.
Right.
Not defending this guy at all. Having said that, he's being charged with a crime in Canada.
What's the crime he's being charged with?
Mischief. Which... It's Canada, so it's adorable.
It's Canada.
Isn't that adorable?
Right, so
you committed mischief.
They're so cute.
But seriously, this is where free speech. Oh, koala bears again.
I know, but koala bears are cute.
They are cute. But
and they don't make sense. This doesn't make sense.
To me, it bothers me that is a criminal act.
Agreed.
As much as I think he should be punched in the face. If I'm a fan of humanity and someone jacks this guy in the face, which actually should be a crime. I'd understand that reaction, but for this to be criminally prosecuted bothers me. Now, what a lot of people don't know is Canada does not have a free speech amendment in their constitution.
They don't.
So it's okay to do that in Canada. So, I mean, I grew up...
No, this is what I'll say, and there's a connection to what we have going on here, right? I mean, because you got a lot of people right now who are very upset about what other people are saying. Conservative, progressive... Democrat,
sure.
Republican, I don't like what you're saying. You need to lose money. You need to lose your job. You need to lose this.
Whatever, yep.
All that sort of stuff. That is the fever pitch of everything that's happening right now. And my question is, how comfortable are you with what just happened to that guy? Right? Like, was it bad? Yes. Should he have been fired? Sure.
Maybe, yeah.
Right, whatever. Right? Like, should he have...
There's professional consequences, absolutely.
Right. Should there have been consequences for his actions? The answer is yes. Should he be in jail, charged with a crime? The answer is no. Right? And so we have to be very careful with demanding that certain things happen because people say things that we don't like.
When people talk about slippery slope arguments, which I hate.
I hate them too, but this is
a good one.
True example of how this works.
If you allow... speech to be criminal,
right?
Then okay, this time it's a vulgar remark made at the wife of a basketball player. But think of the things I've said about Trump on this show. Yeah. He's the fucking president.
Yes.
If they made it illegal, which it is in many countries, to speak out against the government,
You'd be in jail.
Oh,
Or dead, yeah.
probably.
Well, and I just
I got my 1914 rifle on the wall here. I'm not going
people
down.
respond to me and they just say, "Well, yeah, but what if someone called you a nigger?" People have, and they haven't gone to jail, and I've dealt with it.
Right. And
I,
they shouldn't go to jail.
Right, they shouldn't go to jail.
No, it's still
but
disgusting.
I've dealt with it.
I'm sure.
Right? I mean, that person's an asshole, but
more,
I've dealt with it, and I think there at some point in time, it can't be, hey, government has to resolve this particular issue, right?
I mean, imagine if that was the case, where you accused me of calling you a slur of whatever, right, or vice versa. Now.
And
it ends with a criminal prosecution? Are you fucking kidding me?
Right, and it's just like, oh well, it's criminal mischief. It's a slap on the wrist. It's whatever. But that's still listen
escalates, right?
I mean, it does. And so I agree with you on this 100%. I think free speech is a thing. It's important. I think we should defend it, and I think that.
And again, free speech does not mean freedom of speech without consequence.
You know what? And part of me says. This sounds bad what I'm about to say, and I'm going to get ridiculed by all the intellectuals. But if we just got away from suing everybody, from punching everybody, like if you say something stupid to me, like if you call me a nigger and I punch you in the face, then that could
call it a wash.
Right, call it a wash, and I'm dead serious.
I'm
people are going to like that's not the intellectual way to handle things.
It's not.
And I will argue with you that your intellectual way of handling things handles nothing. Right. You know what stops you from calling me a nigger again? Is that every time you see a big scary nigger like me, you won't call me a nigger because you will get punched in the fucking face. And if it doesn't break your jaw, it will at least do enough to tell you, I probably won't say that again.
I don't enjoy that. The problem is you can handle might makes right better than most of the populace, black or white.
Fine. But let me tell you, I can resolve a lot of issues for a lot of people.
All right, here goes Steve Vigilante.
No, I'm not going vigilante, but you know what I'm saying. I do. You agree with me.
I do. Oh, right? Fundamentally, I do.
I mean, because all right, fine. Let's take away the race aspect of it. Just all these assholes on the internet, right?
Again, I don't know, punching them in the face is tempting, and I get the emotion. I don't know what the right response is, but fundamentally,
but you know what?
I agree with you.
You have an exchange.
Yes.
And the person says, well, I'm going to say the worst things I can possibly say about you and your mother and people you know. And you can't do anything about it. And if you physically harm me, then I'm going to call the police and you're going to go to jail. Right. So I'm going to hide behind a microphone or a keyboard or whatever.
Or
I'm going
to do whatever. Handle, which is completely
or a Twitter
anonymous,
handle,
yes.
right? Whatever. It's just like, oh, all right. Well, how about this? How about we meet face to face and we talk about it? Right? And
we need to invent the cyber punch, is what this really means.
Yeah, and
we need to be able to, you put this on
fully
Twitter.
Agree.
Boom!
Right.
So I didn't hit you.
Right.
Cyber punch hit you.
You got cyber punched.
And you deserved it. All right, so we said we would talk more about Florida real quick. So one thing came across my feed, and there's so many more important things.
Real quick.
Yeah.
What's worse, Florida or Russia?
We need to analyze this.
We need to figure out data points.
Florida versus Russia.
We need data points on Florida and
Russia has the advantage in terms of population and vodka consumption. Florida wins on pretty much everything else.
Listen, they got Bud Light consumption.
I would say this. I would much rather meet a Russian woman than a woman from Florida. I've dated Russian women. They're great.
Did we exchange the Russian woman story?
You know what? I don't know if we did, but we shouldn't do it right now.
Svetlana?
I don't know.
Okay. No, we didn't talk about it.
We're deep into this.
I met her in Chicago.
You mentioned that we would come back to Florida, and we will because what's this man's name? There was a fishing charter in Florida that went badly. A man named Mark Bailey was arrested.
Wait, hold on. Did you say it went badly?
It went badly.
Okay, that's a little bit of an understatement.
Yes, it is. Well, so they caught a bunch of fish. They're coming back, and the boat captain starts power drinking rum and snorting coke and drinking beer. And a 15-year-old boy went to grab a beer out of his cooler, and he didn't handle it well. He grabbed the kid's chain around his neck, flung him. Fight breaks out. So goes in, grabs a gun.
Hold on. When did this start going bad? Was it when the
arrival in Florida would be my first answer.
So was it when the captain of the ship started drinking rum and doing blow, or was it when the kid grabbed the beer and the captain Like
apparently
reacted
that was the
drinking rum and doing blow.
I think the captain reacting to the kid grabbing the beer.
That's when it started going bad?
That's what it seems like.
Okay, just so we're clear.
So anyway, he starts firing a gun, yelling. He said something about. Hold on, let me get this right. Yelling and screaming at the captain. First name. All right. He oddly started yelling "nigger" at people, which I don't understand why.
Were there black people on the boat?
I don't think so.
I feel like. So I looked at the article. I didn't see none of the pictures showed there were no black people in any of the pictures, and it doesn't feel like there were any black people there. So why was he screaming?
I'm going to kill niggers. I don't know.
Okay,
but it's not good in any way. And we just said that the speech should not be prosecuted. He should not be prosecuted for yelling that. Firing guns over people's head. Prosecutable.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
kidnapping
not cool.
people on
Kidnapping
a
people on
boat,
yeah.
and shooting in their vicinity
over a beer. Not
because
good
you were
choices.
drinking beer and rum and doing cocaine.
And not necessarily in that order.
Right, like, I mean, I would love to hang out with you, but apparently not.
I don't think you would. No, I don't think that'd be good. Back to I'll punch you in the face for calling me nigger. You would have knocked this guy into the fucking
literally
Atlantic.
Looking for a reason to murder people, so...
Well, you've got one in this guy. You've got one in this guy. This has been a fun show. Let's shut it down before it gets worse. Anyone who stuck around this long, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
I'm not even going to give our social media credentials at this point.
Why not?
All right, we're at Stephen... Oh, sorry. We are at Whiskey Congress on Instagram and Twitter. Jim at Whiskey Congress to email me. Steve at Whiskey Congress to email him. Thank you for listening. Enjoy. We're out. The whiskey was great, and maybe a little revealing of what happens when you drink too much whiskey. Love you, man. It was fun. We're out.